Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to NPU Live. I'm Keri Rodriguez.
And I'm Tim Langen.
It is July 15th. We got halfway through July. Kind of feels like halfway through the summer.
Halfway through this week. It is long.
July 15th, by this time, a month from now, kids are going to be back at school in half the country. And our kids will be going back to something. I don't know.
That's right. Well, let's start off, Keri, by saying you've been busy the last few days talking about that.
Yeah. Well, just kind of sharing the conversation we've been having here. Nothing new to us. Holding folks accountable in the New York Times and CNN. Donald Trump saying some ridiculous stuff about reopening schools. We know what his motive is, and making sure that we have some kind of economic recovery in time for election 2020 coming up in November. From our perspective, not really caring so much about kids, but caring about the stock market.
Right.
And our kids are not guinea pigs. So I don't know. I guess I'm glad that the New York Times and CNN have now joined us in that conversation that we've been having here for several months with parents across the country. About time. I'll tell you something, friends.
Please do.
You'd think, oh wow, they quoted you in the New York Times. You've been on Fox News, CNN. Nobody better mess with your kids, right? Like you've learned a lot of lessons. They don't mess with you. Let me tell you how they mess with me with my kids.
Go on.
Whew. I want to be clear, okay? It is my great honor to serve as your elected president of the National Parents Union. I love it. I love being a voice for parents. We're real talk. I try to do my best work by talking with families across the country to make sure that we are authentically representing you. But my most important job, I say always, is being a mama. Okay, we have 5 little boys, Matthew, Miles, and David, Max, and Dylan. I'm thinking about them, first and foremost, because that's what mamas do. Like that's what we do. And it's still not easy. Like I am still in the struggle with all of you in trying to fight for my own kids, not just my kids' school, not just my kids' district, not just, this region of my state, not just my state, but literally on the most local level, as you can think about here for my own children. So I got into this work because my oldest son, Matthew, has an IEP. His diagnosis, he is twice blessed. He is a beautiful, brilliant, wonderful child who happens to have ADHD and autism, recently diagnosed. So, my experience with him, started when, he was suspended 36 times in kindergarten. That fight for him and getting him justice and education inspired me to connect with other mamas and all this stuff. But I still have to fight for him every single day. The kids are rising 7th grader. So let me tell you about this life. He has an IEP. It is an extensive IEP. When I first started this process, it was a little wimpy IEP. Y'all know what I'm talking about, a little wimpy, like, oh, maybe we'll try this, maybe we'll do this. It is now a robust IEP.
Yes,
he has had a 45-day assessment. He has had all kinds of diagnostic testing because I need to know all kinds of things about how Matthew learns and what he knows and doesn't know, what he excels at, what his deficits are, because I am creating this beautiful educational ecosystem in which he is going to blossom, thrive, and have access to equitable opportunity because I am his mama and that is my cause in life. Number 1 with the bullet. And so here I am on this journey. He has an IEP, which is, I think at last count was about 58 pages long because we get real specific. This mama gets real specific because I've had to learn the hard way when you do not get specific. And I know that IEP. I know it. Forwards, backwards. I wrote portions of it, fought for it, still fight for it. Sometimes I sign off on it. Sometimes I sign off on it for 2 weeks. If we're going to try something new, you want to add a little something, you want to take a little something away, you want to modify something, we're going to do it. I'll sign it for 2 weeks. In fact, the last IEP I was presented, I rejected. Why did I reject it? Because Matthew has extended year services. Any other mamas out there have an IEP, children with ADHD who are in therapeutic settings or have autism? Often our kids don't do well with transitions, so they have extended year services. That means they go to school through the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It is the summer. So Matthew has very specific supports that he is supposed to read, specialists that he is supposed to have access to throughout the summer, numbers of hours in the classroom. None of that changed. His IEP did not change because of the pandemic. So it was my expectation that there would be a modification, because I'll work with you. Like, I get it.
Right.
We're in a pandemic. But I actually had to push them and say, oh, hey, remember, he's got extended year. What are you doing? Took several weeks to get a response.
Yeah.
Got a response with reduced services that I had not signed off on, but they just kind of threw this plan at me and said, well, this is what we're doing. Love it or lump it.
Yeah.
That was basically it. So I was like, you know what? I get it. Modification. We're going to fight this battle, but he's got to be engaged in something, because my son needs structure. He needs to have the structure of school. He does not do well with transitions. He likes to know. That's how he manages his anxiety, right? He's knowing what's going to happen next and having that consistency. It's important to his mental health that happened. So we had to wait until July 14th for extended year services to begin. Now, you'll remember, school here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts ended the beginning of June. So there's been like a 6-week period. So you're talking about, you don't want kids to go through transitions. It's in their IEPs that they're supposed to have an extended year, but you gave them a 6-week break anyway. Come on now. Like, what are you talking about? But, you know, trying to work with you, trying to figure it out. My youngest two, thank goodness for Sharif El-Mekki and his Freedom School Literacy Academy. They're already in school. They are learning, achieving, growing.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. So big day for Matthew yesterday. First day of extended year school. We were ready for it. So Matthew logs in to his Google Classroom. He can see that there's 4 other kids in the classroom.
That's good.
Which, well, is it good? Because he's in a classroom setting that is supposed to only have 4 kids in total. But you know what? Willing to overlook it. We've got to be flexible, right?
Yep.
So he logs in and he sits there and he waits. You can see all the green lights. He's in the right place because other people are in the same damn place. We are in the place we need to be. We are logged in with our Chromebook.
Yep.
First day of extended year, and the teacher doesn't show up. Doesn't show up.
What's up with that?
No email, no phone call. You can bet your ass I picked up the phone and called today, anticipating. I'm waiting with bated breath for a phone call back from the school district to find out where that teacher is and the excuses. I am livid. I'm sharing all of this with you because I want folks to really understand the continuing battle that parents have to go through to get their children the educational opportunity they deserve. This is his right. This is our right as a family. These are his rights to educational opportunity as a child who has some special needs. This is his federal right, his state right to have equitable access. And it is being denied. They are in violation. I can count probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 ways they are violating state and federal law right now. And without even, because maybe there was a mistake. Maybe there's a schedule. I don't know.
It happens.
I don't know anything.
No one's told you.
As a parent. Okay. So let me tell you the consequence of that. Let's take this all together. So then I got a kid who's freaked out. He wasn't really excited.
Right.
About doing online schooling.
Right.
He's not really excited about remote learning. But we got into a place where, okay, we're going to give you a little bit of a break because school is giving you a little bit of a break. But when it comes time to learn, I need you there. I need you to jump on. I need you to do your part. And, you know, he's almost 13 and he's like 13, all hormonal and whatever he is.
Right.
He's a lot right now. He's a
Oof.
lot. But he showed up. He did his part. He showed
there.
up. He was ready to do it. He's like, all right, I'm on it. My little brothers are on it. You know, Tim has been talking to him a lot too about how he's the big brother. You know,
Yep.
everybody looks up to him.
He models for everyone.
He models. He's an influencer. We use that word because they get that, right? So he's got to show up, even if he's grumbly, even if, you know, he's been up half the night, you know, eating the kitchen. He's
got to show up.
He eats like a beast. Like
seriously, where are my bagels, Matthew?
So seriously, the kid eats like 2 packs of bagels a day, but he showed up. Yep. He did his part. So I don't have any information in which I can go back to him and say, Matthew, here's what happened. This is why this didn't happen. It's not because they don't care about you. It's not because you didn't do your part. It's not because people aren't thinking about, you know, you and all, because that's where he is.
Right.
You know, I know my kid. He goes through the cycle of, you know, gosh, my mom's complaining about me. I do it. You know, why do I have to do what she says? They don't even do their part. And then it's like, well, why am I not important enough? Like, this is my school and my teacher doesn't. There's a whole cycle that goes along there. And I don't have any information as a parent, which pisses me off, period. But then I don't have information to help him either. So just want to share this story. The struggle continues for this mama. And it does not matter. It doesn't matter. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, you can show up in any fancy space you want. You want to think, oh, she's in the New York Times, she's at CNN, blah, blah, blah. People must care about what she has to say. Let me assure you, nope, they're gonna do whatever they want to do to my kid, to my kids, to my family. And we've got to continue to organize and we got to continue to fight. I just always think it's funny when it happens to my kids, like, if you're going to do it to anyone's kids, like, don't do it to mine, because this fuels my fire. If I was tired, I'm
sure they've heard about you.
If I was tired before, get me mad, screw with my kids. Okay. I'll go off this for a year. Let me tell you about what the district did to my baby. Okay. This fierce love that I have for this child that you are underserving caused Massachusetts Parents United to be born, caused the National Parents Union to have some inspiration. Like, get mamas mad. You know, we're not going to just get mad. We're going to organize, especially this mama and the whole team of mamas that we have assembled and dads across this country. Oof, my goodness. So anyway, I want to share with you. I want to be very real that, like, this stuff is not easy for me either. Like, and I don't want to I'm going to end up spending half my day on the phone being ugly with people, because that's what it takes. Now, and I know a lot of you mamas out there know what I'm talking about, because unless you call and you bark and say, I'm sorry, you goofed up on the first day, and you're going to talk to me about, well, we're just learning. Honey, it is July. You know, you've been trying to figure this out since March. It's been 6 weeks since school was in session. You're planning for this extended year that doesn't feel so extended to me. Seriously, get it together. Get it together. So.
Well, speaking of mamas who are fighting a good fight, let's bring on another mama. Stop bringing on Mira, who's in the heat of it. That's no pun intended. It's Texas. It's goddamn hot. But she's living the fight too. And like you said, doesn't matter who you're working for, what you're doing, what field you're in. It doesn't stop. Mira, how are you doing?
I'm good. We're good. It is hot. It's 105 degrees here. It's gotten to the point now where you go out at like 6:30 in the morning and then that's it. But no, we're good. We had a round of, I spent my weekend Googling, is ear infections part of a symptom of COVID-19? Because we had like no one knows, like everything else with COVID-19.
WebMD? Did you do WebMD? The worst thing any parent can do?
The worst thing any parent can do. Yes.
Yep.
So I did it all. We were just last week, my toddler was sick, and then my husband was like down for the count all weekend with a double ear infection. I was like, what 40-year-old gets a double ear infection?
Right. And it's horrible because now you're not just sick. You're sick, ... Do you have COVID?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like a simple go to the doctor anymore. You know, we talked about that last week.
And what I've been saying is like now it's every family for themselves. This is like the Hunger Games because like, holy crap. We don't know who to trust. Can't even trust the CDC for crying out loud.
Nope.
Because like now the Trump administration is taking away their ability to actually track COVID cases.
Yep.
Like all of this, I mean, you can't trust any resource. So like, as mamas, we got to be like, well, I don't think it's COVID. I think we can handle this, or maybe we should risk it and roll the dice and go to the doctor. And then like one of the very first guests we actually had on this broadcast was a pediatrician, Katie McBride.
I remember. Yeah.
Who talked about the fact that, just call. Just call, just get it checked out. That's what they're there for. It'll put your mind at ease. But yeah, like nowadays, like we don't know who to trust because they give us no reason to trust. Everything is so political and it's just hard.
It leaves, I feel like you end up, at least in our case, sort of, there's like text chains of just friends, right? Other moms or dads and things like that. And you rely on each other, right? In those moments, because it's really hard to know, to your point, where to go, who to go to, what to read. And the challenge too is, you call up and you say, I have my son has an ear or whatever. And people are hesitant to see you, because it's like, what if you have, and don't get me wrong, like, I get it. I'm in a city and in a state where cases are surging, but I was like, no, I really think it's just an ear infection. Can you please just give him some meds so that our household can like return to whatever normal is right now. But it is hard. And last night there was like a text chain between friends because, we're like all parents, we're getting whiplash right now of, our district came up with this whole plan and we had to opt in or opt out and all of these different things. And then TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency, it's like, just kidding, after Trump's thing, everyone's going to go back to school. And then Austin Public Health last night made an announcement that's like, no one's going back to school until at least, I think it was like mid-September, and the numbers have to be, I think the numbers even have to be like pre-pandemic numbers of hospitals. I was like, well, then close restaurants, and so it's just like, you are just getting this whiplash as a parent. And, and so there was like text chains at like midnight last night of like, did you guys see this? And what do we do? And Mira, you're in education, you're working with parents. What is happening across the country? Should we fight? And so it's a very, as always, interesting moment in time here and everywhere.
How has that made you feel as a parent? I know you had to go through a tough decision-making process for like the right choice for your kids and your family. As you see these numbers go up and down, I've actually been using our conversation as a great kind of starting point with a lot of folks that this is going to like be a day by day thing because it's very emotional, like, and it's based on whatever information you're receiving that day from whatever source it is and trying to evaluate whether or not you trust that source. Because like you could even take a half day and be like, you know what, feel really good. Kids are going to go back. I trust that this is going to be okay. And then get hit in the middle of the forehead with the COVID number 2x4 or whatever Trump says or whatever Dr. Fauci says or whatever. And then by 9:00 that night being like, hell no, I'm going to have to figure this out. I'm going to have to set up a homeschool pod and figure out like how I keep my kids here. And it's this emotional roller coaster because the lack of stability, it's the lack of structure. I think about, like I was just talking about Matthew and structure. We all need structure. We all need to be able to anticipate and have some kind of regularity here, like just some foundation, like for us to be
ground us.
To ground us. Where are you right now? Like, are you still in the roller coaster? Are you still feeling good about your decision? Like, are you taking it day by day, saying like, I don't know, like what's happening?
It's a fair question. In all honesty, it's literally, I think, hour by hour. Like I literally have hours where I'm like, I got this. I changed around my furniture as a way to like as a way to like, make myself feel better in a moment. I'm trying to do things, but for me personally, it really is hour by hour, where there are hours where I am so angry. Like I'm just angry. Like I want to just like scream at the policymakers and everyone in my area of just like, what do we do? You know, and then there are moments where I'm like, I can do this. We can get through this. We can do this. And then you know, other moments where I'm crying. I mean, it's just, and I'm sort of embarrassed to admit that, but it is true. I mean, and I try to, you know, and all of that is to say that I do all of that, and I try to sort of hold myself together for our work, the work that I believe so deeply in, to help friends, to be available emotionally for everyone in my life who has something, right? Something right now, whether it's their kids, just something that they are struggling with. But on all honesty, it is a moment to moment a moment feeling and emotion right now. And like right now, I'm definitely I'm just angry. Like I'm angry because I feel like we're having the wrong conversation.
Mhm.
It's mid-July. We're gonna be online. Let's just like, I've had to accept it. I held out hope that my kid was gonna be in person, you know, so okay, we're gonna be online. So now how are we actually gonna make that really good for our kids?
Right.
You-
Exactly.
It's not really good. Spring was awful. Like
Right.
that's what next year is going to be like. Let's just wash off the year like it was. And so I'm just like, I feel like I read all of these things, and should we open and should we not open, and teachers and parents are being pitted against each other right now of, do you care about teachers or do you care about kids? Like we're having all of these false conversations right now, when in fact we're remote. So let's make it work. How
Yes.
do we make it quality for kids? And how do we actually allow working parents to be available to make it work? So where are the businesses? Like where are people to having those real conversations?
I think that's exactly right, because we're spending so much time talking about like, what's the best way to wrap our kids in plastic so that they can get back. Like I was looking at Chalkbeat Newark, which just put out like, oh, hey, we're starting off with our social distancing, you know, procedures during summer school. And you look at it and it's kids wrapped in plastic in classes, and it's only a couple kids. Like none of this is feasible.
Right.
So can we like stop with the ridiculous and stupid conversations? Because that's what it is. Ridiculous and stupid. Kids cannot safely go back to school. And even if you say they're open, the unions are going to fight you and say, we're not going back. So like, can we just resolve, like, we're not going
We've
back.
had months to plan this, months to discuss it, get the technology out there, start moving. Because not right now, it's crunch time.
Yeah, let's figure
out
out
national and state strategy. Like
Right.
There's no strategy, right? And so why are parents, and quite frankly, school leaders and parents and teachers shouldering the burden alone? Like it makes no sense to me that somehow we are supposed to solve, like once again, I feel like as a community, when I say community, I mean like, you know, again, school leaders and teachers and parents are supposed to solve the world's problems by ourselves, while policymakers and business and all of this are sort of sitting back. Like it's just, I'm floored, you know, and I think parents are starting to be really angry and floored by that too.
I am ready as a parent to step up to the plate, to do whatever training is asked of me to make sure that I'm able to help facilitate learning at home, that I can make the time, that I can sit down, give them the environment that they need. I think every parent is willing to do that. I need teachers who are willing to do the work of retraining themselves so that they can facilitate online learning. Instead of fighting and saying, well, I'm not doing remote learning. You have to hire other educators to do remote learning, but you still have to pay me at the, like, no, like we're all in. If parents are going to have to modify, teachers are going to have to modify and do some stuff that's a little uncomfortable, because that's part of it. And then I need businesses to say, hey, you know what? If I have employees who have kids that are in K through 12 education, we're going to have to be a little bit more flexible and understanding. No more of this crap about you must always be available. You may not have a child in the room or in the house at the time when you're working. Like this is a pandemic. And if you're not willing to actually do that, then there's got to be a program that's provided by the federal government so that these employees can be made whole. They're getting their same salary, but are furloughed. and are given the ability to take it. Like, we all gotta like look at this holistically.
We
And
all have to actually be in it together, or else it doesn't work, right? Like, there are so many. I was just sort of sitting back myself. I was like, okay, what can we co-share job roles, right? There, where you're partnered with someone else, and so that way you're 50-50 and you have the time, right? You're sharing a role. Can we, teachers co-share job roles, employees can co-share job roles? Can you, there's just, I'm sure there's way more innovative and creative solutions than sort of what I can come up with at like 1 a.m. when I can't sleep, thinking about this. But to your point, and the flexibility, different hours, and those are jobs that can be remote. But to your point, for those who can't and have to go in, I was just like, okay, can we? I mean, this is crazy, but like, let's stand up AmeriCorps. Let's think about a core, college students who can't find jobs right now, who could be paid by sort of a federal government type program. I don't know, a core that could go out and support parents.
To run a homeschool pod, and to like maybe work with 4 or 5 kids that are all in their own bubble. I mean, come on, like now
there are really creative things we could have been doing this entire time, like thinking about and really putting in place, instead of fighting and having no national or state strategy. And you're right, now it's July, but here's the truth. Great, so now let's plan for January 1st. We're not going to be out of it. So what can the second semester of school and second part of school year and into summer look like? It's not like the pandemic's going to be over, especially since health folks are telling us it's just going to get worse.
Exactly.
Let's start now, let's do this remote. Let's figure out how to make it work, and let's figure out what we can do even better in January. But it's just, I don't see that conversation happening anywhere.
Nope.
So that was not my tip for the day.
Let's get into your tip and talk about what you're putting out for parents this week.
Yeah.
Continue to try to navigate the summer. So, what are you guys working on?
So I wanted to actually talk about belonging today. And this one felt really our kids' feeling of belonging. Mm-hmm. And this one I felt really important. It was important pre-pandemic, and I'll explain why. And it's a really big one. And now I was just on my soapbox for the majority of our time. So I think I'll break it up sort of today and next week, if that's okay, for part of the conversation. But here's why I wanted to talk about it. I mean, we were just talking about how we're in this unique moment in time. You have the pandemic, you have school being fully remote or not happening at all. You have sort of no friends and community. You have these really hard conversations about race and identity, and like so much is happening. And understanding, I think, how our culture and our environment and our sort of day-to-day interactions like impact how our kids' feeling of belonging, I feel like can't be any more important than it is right now. And so when I say belonging, I mean sort of feeling and believing that we're valued, you're accepted, you fit in, you're respected, right? And that can literally, when you look at all the research, can literally make the difference in how our kids learn, their ability to learn, their feeling of safety and security at home, at school, how they engage with teachers, how they engage with their teachers and peers, and whether they even feel that they're worthy to be in a school building or to be learning or to be in school, that they belong, they're worthy to be there, make friends, all of these things. And interestingly enough, belonging can literally make the difference if a child completes college, if a student completes college. Like, that is how important it is. And right now, we are in a very untraditional time, right? And so even more so when you look at sort of our kids, and belonging can't be any more important, that feeling of being respected and valued, and finding that place where you fit in, I think is going to be more important than ever. And so we wanted to spend a little bit of time on this, and we'll talk about it a little bit at home right now. And then I think as we get closer to school, whatever that looks like, how can educators, quite frankly, because that's going to be a huge part of their role when virtual school starts, is how are they going to make kids feel like they belong as part of that classroom and in that community. But I wanted to just sort of give a little bit of a background on it and why it's so important. And first and foremost, we've talked about the fact that we're built to make social connections, right? We're human beings. This is what we do. It's in our DNA to bond, to feel supported and connect with people. And so when we feel different, when we feel like an outsider, when we feel like an other in some way because of the way we look, right, our skin color or our physical disability or the language we speak or whatever it might be, that triggers stress and anxiety. And so like rejection and social exclusion are processed in the same part of the brain, and they are actually processed as physical pain. So that means that for our kids, it actually physically hurts when they feel excluded and when they feel like they don't belong, right? When you think about it from there, I think about so many times this year with Gabriel, with my son, and I think about moments in my life in the past where I've actually, when I looked back, I was like, wow, I actually do think I felt like real pain when I felt like an outsider, when I felt like an other, when I felt like I couldn't find my place. And that's why I think it's just so important that we start thinking about how we can help our kids figure out belonging, and quite frankly, help our kids help other kids, right? Like be the person that helps other kids feel like they belong and they're part of a community. Because this year is going to be a year of otherness in some way, of isolation in some way. And so it is a mindset, so it can be changed, which I think is interesting. And that's not to sort of say that it's all on you, right, in your environment and your culture, because we look for cues around us, right? When we feel uncertain about, do I fit in? Do I belong here? Right? And when we carry all of that, we look at the environment, we look at the words people are using, right? When they're speaking with us, when they're connecting with us. And all of that sort of looking around and searching for cues takes up a ton of emotional and physical energy, which is why kids then can't learn, right? All of their energy is being put there versus being able to really learn and engage with people and feel motivated.
I identify so much with this as an adult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just going through. So imagine a little person whose brain is just developing, trying to process all of this and the emotional energy. And then you wonder why, you have some ugly moments, when you're feeling out of place or you're not necessarily, you're being your best self, in those moments. If it's hard for grown-ups, it's 10 times as difficult for kids.
Absolutely. And kids don't, they don't yet have the strategies, right? And so like, how do we as parents help our kids when they feel that way? How do we help them out of that, right? How do we help shift sort of their thinking from I don't belong to I feel respected and accepted, right? Because that is a shift that kids can make. And again, how do we teach them how to treat other kids with respect and empathy and understand that, and recognize feelings of when you don't belong and things like that. And so I'm just going to talk about quick 2 things so that you can get to your next guest this morning and we can continue the conversation, because there's so much in the tip. And so I was trying to figure out, and there's so much out there. And there's some really interesting work, I would say, happening in schools between sort of learning scientists and practitioners and educators, because it is literally one of the most important things to even, again, high school graduation and college graduation and kids sort of persisting and finding that community. And so a couple of quick things we've talked to start off with while we're home together right now in this moment of time of July. We've talked a lot about this, but part of belonging, right? Part of a healthy sense of belonging is kids being able to express who they are versus pretending to be something that they're not. And it is understanding that they are so important, and understanding what would be lost in this world if we didn't have them, right? Like deeply understanding who you are and what you bring to this world. And so we've talked about mattering, and I know I'm sort of a broken record on this one, but it's just that important, I think, to a sense of belonging, right? And so the belief, and part of mattering is also the belief that we make a difference in the world around us, that people want us there, right? And that's part of respect and feeling valued in all of that. And so it takes 5 to 10 minutes, undivided attention that you can give your kids. And I know, and please know, I know 5 to 10 minutes right now is really hard, and I totally get that. I struggle with that sometimes in sort of all the world that we're living in right now. The 5 to 10 minutes, undivided attention, where your kid can feel is if you're listening to them, right? That they can depend on you, that you believe in them, that you're encouraging them, right? Like all of that is part of that sense of of that bond, right? That connection they're making to you, or it could be a sibling. It could be an aunt or uncle, a grandparent, whoever, just as long as they have that, we talked about grounding, that person they can sort of ground themselves with and connect with will make a huge difference to their feelings of feeling valued and feeling respected and feeling like they belong in this moment or in this house or in this community. So that's a really, I think, important one and a big one. And the second one I would say for this week is rituals and routines are really important in general to kids, but it's really important also that, again, they help ground us, right? And make us feel like, again, we sort of belong in these moments and we fit in. So check in, check out is a really interesting one and a good one that I think parents can use right now. Just every morning, it could be the same 5 to 10 minutes where you check in with each other, right? Where your child is feeling like you're interested in how they're feeling, what's going on in that moment with them, in that day with them, their emotions, whatever. You want to hear what they have to say. Oh, my mom and dad, they want to hear what I have to say. Right? Those moments are hugely important to a sense of belonging. And sort of that connection point. So those were the two that I would leave us with this week at least, and then we can get into more of sort of the education side of it in the future.
Mira, I think that's really, really important, and
Yes.
we always take your tips and try to apply them for both the kids and the grown-ups, and I think it's really important.
Specific about mattering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about mattering around, and double clicking on that so that you understand that belonging and feeling that sense of belonging is a key part of mattering and how we build on that. I mean, we know that mattering is one of the keys to getting kids open enough so that their minds are able to learn, so that they're not dealing with all of the static around them, that they're open enough so that their minds can work, and they can actually access what we want them to. So it was just incredible to have you with us, Mira. Thank you so much.
Can I make one last ask super quick? We just launched, sorry, not that I gave you an opportunity to say no. We are running what we're just calling sort of a pilot program right now for the next month, where we're asking parents to sort of join us every week and literally try out a tip and a tool, give us feedback. We want to make them as good as they can be for parents next year. And so if there are any parents in the NPU community who would like to sort of formally join this, it's 6 weeks. And again, we sort of give you a tool and a tip that you can try with your kids, and you give us real honest feedback on how we can make them better, what works, what doesn't. We would love to have you. You just have to email us at info@preparedforsuccess.org. So.
Yeah, Mira, I think our next guest actually might be able to open up the door to a whole bunch of parents that will participate. So we'll definitely make sure that we present that to her as well.
Absolutely.
She's working in California, and I think your work is very similar to the work that she is doing. So I think that's going to be an interesting connection.
Absolutely.
So, Mira, thank you so
guys.
much. That's Mira from Prepared Parents joining us live on NPU Live. We know your time is short, and we appreciate you spending it with us every single week.
Thank you guys.
All right, joining us from California is one of our friends who is doing extraordinary work, and we made this connection through one of our counselors at the National Parents Union, Christina Laster, who is on the hunt for parent organizations that are just extraordinary.
That's right.
And are doing the work that is just so critical for so many families, doing that direct family work.
Yes.
And that's really what the National Parents Union is about. It's just having some solidarity, finding and lifting up the voices of people doing extraordinary work. And that's why we're excited to bring Tiara with us. Tiara King is from ShePower Academy. I always want to call it Leadership Academy. And maybe in a previous iteration, it was Leadership Academy, but Tiara is with us live from California. It is so early in the morning that we woke you up, but we are so grateful that you are with us today, Tiara. Thank you. And look at your beautiful smile. You are giving me life this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. Mira, my goodness, so much knowledge. I was like in awe at all of the love that she was giving in terms of what our children are going through right now. My goodness.
Yeah, Mira is such a blessing. She's been with us just since the very beginning, giving us tips. She used to do it every single day at the beginning of the pandemic. We're giving her a little bit of a break because it's summertime, but she is doing extraordinary work. Just, we found in this moment, and the whole reason why we started these Facebook Lives and why we do this is like, we're drowning. It's a lot. And there's so much information being thrown at us. And, we started this broadcast talking about it's really hard to know who to trust because there's so much politicization happening, whether it's medical advice, educational advice, everybody's got an angle. And our only angle is our kids. So we got to work with people we trust to get the right information so we can help our kids. And that's why we're so excited that you're with us this morning. Tiara, tell us about your organization, what you guys are doing.
Goodness. So with ShePower, we take the girls after school and we give them tools, we give them leadership abilities, we expand on their knowledge in order to kind of move them along in life and just want more, acquire more. There's so much potential. And if you don't maximize on that potential at the right time, then things happen and life happens and they don't maximize what they could have done or what they could have been, or maybe it'll take a little longer. So with ShePower, we empower our girls and we empower our young women to just go out and be fierce and confident, talk about these things. We give them platforms so that they learn and they can use it and they can go out and just be the best that they can be. I also work with sex offenders. I know it's a lovely work, just kind of understanding or helping them to understand what they've done, the gravity of the situation of what they've done, bringing restoration to them so that they don't go back out and commit those offenses again. And then I also work with individuals who purchase sex, kind of along the same lines, just giving them the tools to understand what they're doing and what the industry in which they're contributing to, so that we reduce the demand of sex trafficking.
Well, all three of those lanes, very, very difficult work, work that must be done. But it's hard, to have those courageous conversations in all of those different spaces. So let's check in with your heart in this moment. In addition to the tough work you're doing every single day, you're also a Black woman in America during, that's a challenge on a regular basis. But you got COVID-19, you got disproportionate impact on the Black community, all communities of color, but definitely the Black community. We are in the middle of a racial uprising, very difficult conversations happening across this country. And you're in this work every single day and you're trying to take care of your family and doing all this. So how is Tiara doing? How are you doing, girl? How are you taking care of yourself and getting through this, day by day?
Exactly. Day by day. Every day is different. I have a 6, she'll be 7 next month, year-old. And so I am unfortunately that mother who I like her to know what's going on in this world. So we talk about these things. I get her kind of pulse on how she's doing and what's going on in her head as things are coming around to her as well. So we just both kind of stick it out together and try to find the light and try to find the good point. How do we bring people together in this moment? And that's really what drives me day by day, is looking for that silver lining of, okay, there's so much hate, there's so much division. What can we do to unify in this moment? How can I be an outlet for someone else and bring people together? Let's, get all of the policies on the table. Let's discuss it, what's going to be the best outcome, but just really striving to maintain unity in such a divisive country right now. That's just really what's been fueling me.
So let's get into your work and the 3 different planks. We're going to have a conversation about all 3 of them because they're all important. They're not comfortable. Well, the first one feels pretty natural to empower girls, but all 3 of them necessary parts of the conversation if we're talking about really changing our society. Right? So number 1, let's talk about empowering girls. And it's empowering girls, but it's not giving them power. Girls are powerful to begin with. It's almost like a process of understanding that power and harnessing it and understanding that you should be using it and you can use it. And like that whole emotional journey and how important it is if we're going to create a new generation of leaders there. So talk to us about that work and how, you know, the folks that you're working with right now.
That is the beauty of it, is that it's already there. I don't have to create it. All I have to do is kind of show them how to filter and how to flow. With myself, I mean, everything that I do, it's an example of what I've been through, or, you know, that I can relate to personally. And so when I speak with these young girls who, you know, teenagers who are dealing with a plethora of emotions, it's so enlightening to be able to say, there's light on the other side of this. We can come through this, and here's those tools in order to do it, and tapping into what their interests are. That is the most exciting thing for me, because kids, young kids, especially our teenagers, they have such a different outlook, like so different. And I mean, I'm not that far off from teenage years, but I'm just always so surprised to like, wow, like that's a pretty good idea. Let's roll with it. Let's go with it. Like, let's look into this. And a lot of teenagers, I don't think, get to hear that, because it's always what's being told to them, not necessarily opening that door to, well, yeah, let's move on your idea and let's see how this goes. And once you do that and you open that door for them, they will burst it wide open and they will run with ideas and they will start to make changes. And then you see those changes in them, and it's a beautiful thing.
I love this so much. I feel like I have a personal connection to a bunch of your work here. You know, I'm a little farther off from being a teenager than you. But I remember being a teenager, but I was that girl, like, I was a smart kid, but I was pissed. I was, dealing with the foster care system. I was dealing with, parents struggling with substance abuse, all of this kind of stuff happening. I was angry. I wanted to fight. I didn't feel like anybody was listening to me. I had a lot of ideas when I could actually settle myself down. I was a smart kid, but so much distraction and so much going on. Like, I had some folks that saw potential in me, and then a whole other group of folks that were very anxious to push me out and throw me away. And so I always wonder sometimes, like, if I had had more mentorship and guidance, what trajectory my life would have taken. Because I remember being a kid with big ideas and big vision. But I felt like I was lost and alone. So I can just imagine, what that does for young ladies that you're working with right now.
Exactly. And we have those that come through and their life isn't so great, and they are dealing with those real struggles that most adults couldn't even imagine going through at their age, let alone as a child. And so for me, especially, those are my favorites, the wild child, because those are the ones that, they're so great. There's so much greatness, so much potential, so much to restore within them once they just make that first step. It becomes difficult because once you're in the life, or once you've experienced so much, that life is comfortable. And so kind of stepping out and moving the negative and moving the bad behavior into a more positive light, and just fueling that energy in a more positive direction, sometimes just seems like too much of a daunting task. And so it's a battle between, well, I want to go hang on the block and I want to do this with my crew, and okay, over here I have these people who believe in me and I can't let them down. And so it's handhold. It's a whole lot of hand holding, but it is so well worth it.
And we have big, thick walls. I remember, it took a lot for me to trust anybody, even folks that were saying, hey, you know what? We think you're too smart for what you're doing right now. Like, why don't you go do this? And why don't we send you to Washington, D.C. for the youth Congress? I'm like, I'm not trying to go to youth conference. Like, no. I had developed these thick walls of distrust, like that it was very hard to let anybody trying to build me up in. Like, I felt like I couldn't trust. So that is the tough work that you guys do, is like, even convincing, some of us young ladies who may, have lost, some of that faith, some of that belief that, the world is bigger than the block, and that it's bigger than, this little bubble. Like there are all kinds of things to explore. So tremendous work. Before we let you go, because our time is so short, I apologize. We want to have you back too, because you guys are doing tremendous work. We want to make sure we highlight and lift up the important work you guys are doing. You know, you also do some work that is very challenging. You know, working with sex offenders, working with, you know, people who purchase sex. Like you're putting it right out there saying like, because when we talk about sexual abuse and a lot of this, and, you know, it's a little triggering for those of us who are survivors to think about the full spectrum of what happens or what has to happen to disrupt these cycles so we do not have, we stop it. You know, we stop recidivism, we stop, you know, the perpetuation, all of this stuff. You've got to do that tough work of having these conversations with people who have offended so that they are not preying on folks that are, you know, often young women who are not coming from solid backgrounds. So that's really tough emotional work. Like, can you talk to us about that piece of your work and what you bring to it?
Absolutely. So it is. It's really tough work. And I struggle often when I have these conversations because the perception is that I'm defending the action. And that's not necessarily it at all. I can't hate the person, but I can hate that institution that has pushed that person to behave and to make such an action. But in order for me to do my part in preventing further victimization, we have to get it right there. We have to get it where it starts. And so that is my contribution to sexual violence, is attacking the institution and retraining the mind, retraining the behavior so that those actions don't occur in the future. And then it all ties together because I also do the preventive side of it so that they don't start altogether. Everything begins in your mind, every single thing. So before you ever act it out, it's in your mind. And if we can take that and provide a platform in which people feel comfortable enough to come and express, like, yeah, I'm looking at images of children and I'm feeling this type of way and I want to go act on this. If we can nip it right there, then we have saved a child. We have saved a woman from being raped. We have saved a victim. And so that's my goal, is to just stop it altogether, to stop putting a Band-Aid on the situation and to just eliminate it.
It seems like such a huge and overwhelming problem. And, you know, it's ugly. Folks don't want to think about it. They don't want to engage in that work. They want to punish those people immediately. And frankly, you know, it's hard for me. I want to punish those people. I don't want those folks anywhere, you know, where they could potentially offend. But, you know, this is some of the really tough work about societal change that has to happen. And do you think that it's possible that we can start making progress towards ending this kind of behavior and stop the cycle of victimization? Like, what's your hope for that, and what progress are you seeing?
Well, I would definitely say yes. Don't let the smile fool you. It is some tough work, and I am no nonsense when it comes to doing the work to move forward. We don't cut slack, unfortunately. Like, we have those tough conversations and we hold people accountable. I am definitely all for making sure that accountability is being held, and that does include punishment, and that does include paying they're doing the time for what you've done. So it's not necessarily like the cuddly type of therapy that you would imagine. It is definitely doing that deep work to understand that behavior. And the industry as a whole with sex offender treatment, it has made progress, which is a good thing. When you can really pair the type of act and the type of issues that drove the behavior to a therapist whose heart is there and who knows how to really tap in, we see it. We luckily, you know, here I manage Kern County, so we see that the recidivism rate is going down, and it is a beautiful thing to know that maybe they're still, and it's going to be a lifetime struggle, but now they know that they have those tools in order to fall back on, in order to not do that again. And you nipped it right there. I think one of the main drivers that that our gentlemen walk away understanding is that they were victims in many cases. And so when you understand that as a whole, you've stopped that cycle, and that is tremendous work, because now that cycle no longer goes on.
Tiara, it's extraordinary. You're like a superhero to take on this. No, seriously, to take on such a difficult issue that disproportionately impacts communities of color. Like we're saying, like our girls are there. It happens. And it's ugly, and people don't want to talk about it. And it's hard work that needs to be done if we're going to break cycles of trauma. You want to talk about trauma, it's hard. These conversations are hard. The work is hard. And folks like you are out there doing it. So we just want to lift you up, celebrate the fact that you're doing the tough work in our communities, that's making a difference. It does my heart good to know that this work is impacting recidivism, that we're seeing numbers on the decline. And that's like, that's the goal. That is the goal. So Tiara, thank you so much for being with us. ShePower Academy is in California, but their work is a national example that we are hoping a lot of other organizations, their approach to really making sure our young girls are feeling their power and their strength, they're learning leadership, and they're becoming the next group of mama warriors of the future. We're excited about what you guys are doing, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
Wonderful. I hope Tiara will come back with us soon.
We'll get her back.
That would be wonderful. Thank you guys for being with us. And we are going to have more exciting content coming up for you on Friday. I'm excited to talk to Christy Joyce. It's a conversation you're not going to want to miss, because Christy Joyce, she's in Kansas City, talking about Missouri. There are school districts in Missouri asking parents to sign death waivers if you want your kids to go back to school in person, freeing them of responsibility if your child contracts COVID-19 because they have reopened schools and they're back in the classroom. Want to get her perspective on the ground as our delegate in Missouri.
Can't wait to hear about that on a Friday.
Holy crap. Will you sign? We're going to put this up on the National Parents Union social media pages, because we want to get your reaction. If you are presented with a waiver that you're expected to sign, will you sign it? I have a lot of concerns about, and I know I'm going to talk to Christy about this because she's very concerned. Parents who of kids who are ELL learners who may not speak English, whether or not they're going to fully understand the rights that they are allegedly signing away. I don't even know if that's legal.
If I have to sign a death waiver for my kids to attend anywhere, I'm not going to send them.
Yeah,
just say
not
worth it. Not worth it.
Interesting conversation coming up on Friday with Christy Joyce. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks for being with us this morning. We'll see you then.
Have a nice day, everyone.